Hello, everyone. We often talk about immigration because it is one of the areas of law that I provide legal services in, but I realized I never talk about the broad view of how U.S. immigration system works. So I'm going to do that today. I'm Raluca. As I said, I am an attorney who provides immigration, estate planning, and family law services to my clients. My marketing and office manager, Nina Clear, is here with me. We really appreciate all your shares, likes, and comments as they help others to see our videos, and we really appreciate your support.
Is there any particular law that governs immigration law?
Yes, the INA, or Immigration and Naturalization Act, is the law that governs immigration. However, I would like to point out that both the Justice Department and USCIS have policies that should also be reviewed as they may impact the immigration process.
And INA also has limits or quotas under their law for how many immigrants are allowed in every year and in which category, right?
That's right, except for some categories of immigrants like a spouse or minor child of a U.S. citizen, which is unlimited. There is a worldwide limit of 675,000 per year for permanent immigrants.
So, and the reason we wanted to point out that there's a limit is because people think immigration is very slow, but part of it is that so many people are applying and they can only let certain amount in.
That's true.
And then you said there's a limit for permanent immigrants. What do you mean by permanent immigrants?
That means people who are coming to the U.S. to become citizens rather than here for business or pleasure with no intention to become citizens.
And even if they are coming here to become a permanent immigrant, they usually don't become citizens immediately, right?
Yes. Yes, they cannot become citizens immediately. Not unless they are a child of a U.S. citizen. Then they all must go through the immigration process.
And with those who are coming to live here permanently, there are different categories, right?
Yes, there are many categories, and very broadly, there is family-based, employment-based, refugees and asylees, the diversity visa program, and other forms of humanitarian relief.
And with the limit on how many can come into the U.S., there's also a per country limit, right?
Right. Each country can only have a certain numbers of immigrants approved every year.
And the last I heard, the percentage was like 7%, but it's a little bit detailed, so we didn't go into the percentages.
Yes, we could stay here and talk all day.
Forever and just confuse people more. So
exactly.
So the broad categories you listed are the family-based, employment-based, etc. And with those, each of them have different requirements that make it so you can enter the U.S.
Yes. There is a medical exam. There is a moral review. So they look at any crimes you have committed or groups that you have belonged to. And the person who sponsors you must ensure that they can and will financially support you.
And then there's certain questions that we get asked almost every day, and I wondered if you could answer some of those.
Sure.
Okay, so for family-based immigration, if you're a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, which is also known as LPR or lawful or legal permanent resident, who can you sponsor?
Your spouse, child of any age, parents, or brothers or sisters.
So not aunts or uncles or cousins?
No. I know that can be confusing in immigration when we use the term immediate relative. That only means your spouse, unmarried minor children, or your parents. Other relatives fall under a family preference category.
And those other relatives can only be your brothers or sisters, basically, or children who are older or married.
That's right.
Okay. And if your parents are sponsored by a relative, so say a sibling, like their brother or sister sponsors them,
Yes.
as their child, will you be able to come with them?
It depends on which relative sponsor them. If the parent is sponsored as an immediate relative, so their child or spouse is sponsoring them, they cannot have derivative relatives on their application.
What does that mean?
Derivative relatives do not need a separate visa application, but can travel under the lead immigrant's visa.
And does that include any child would be the derivative relative?
No, as I said, if their child is sponsoring them, they would each need their own visa, but if their brother or sister is sponsoring them, they may be able to bring their spouse or children.
Okay, so if the parents were sponsoring a brother or sister, their minor, unmarried child may be able to come with them as a derivative relative. Okay. So if we had a parent who was sponsored by their brother, but their 27-year-old kid probably wouldn't be able to come with them.
That's
because they're 27.
Yes.
So they're not a minor. Okay.
Yes.
And we talked about, so far, family immigration, but then there's also employer-based, refugees, asylees, and other humanitarian, diverse, right? So there's all of those.
Right. Plus the diversity lottery. We could probably do a video on each of these topics and talk for hours on each one. So as to not confuse people, we'll keep this limited on this video.
So we're trying to show how the immigration process works, but we have to try to make it super not confusing.
Very short.
Yeah. So very briefly, if you could take us through the steps that a person must go through from being a foreign national to becoming a U.S. citizen.
Okay. They are sponsored by a business person, or they invest in a business, or they are a refugee or other humanitarian status. So they are approved to enter the U.S. on a visa. Then they come in the U.S. and may have immediate legal permanent residence status, which can either be permanent or conditional. If not, they must apply for an adjustment of status to move from being a visa holder to being a legal permanent resident. And if they receive a conditional green card, they must live in the U.S. a certain period of time and then apply to remove those conditions and obtain a permanent green card. After getting their green card, they must again live in the U.S. for an additional time period and meet certain conditions before they can apply to become a citizen. And once they apply, they must pass a test to become a citizen. Each of these steps is much more detailed than it is possible to list here. They all have specific requirements. Most have fees for each application, as well as in-person interviews.
And to make sure people are clear, having a visa does not guarantee entry into the United States, right?
That's right. A visa is permission to enter U.S., but every time you come into the country at a port of entry, which is usually an airport, or if you come with the car, it's a port of entry. You are actually applying for entry at that location. So the officers over there have power to allow you in or not.
And some visas are immigrant visas and some are non-immigrant visas, right?
That's right. So we hope this helped to give you an idea of what the immigration process is in the U.S. And we thank you, as always, for watching and for all your likes and comments. Please comment below or reach us directly. And if you have questions, we'll answer we'll answer them as soon as we can. Thank you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.